this coaching cycle with me. First of all, I'm going to just ask you a few questions so that can help me kind of focus on what I'm going to be looking at and what I'm going to be paying attention to during the lesson. What is it that you want the kids to learn?
We're in a unit of narrative, and our focus has been on values within the narrative unit, and we will be studying a short story and getting students to better understand how a person can change their values through self-discovery, self-determination.
Okay. So is it the concept primarily that you want them to learn, or is it
There'll be a
the
combination.
strategy for digging into the literature?
There'll be a combination of understanding, making sure they've got the gist of the story, how the story progresses in a plot diagram. But overall, the main objective will be to realize how a person can change, become more self-aware, have a change of heart. So yes, it is the transformation of a character and focused on their value system.
Okay. But what is it exactly that you would like me to watch for as you teach? Some specific aspect of your teaching that you'd like me to focus on?
I think the questioning would be important, and making sure that the questions are understandable and that they're reasonable, and then looking at how students are able to answer those questions both orally with their partner, with their table. So again, just that synthesizing of information in the students.
So you're going to have them discuss questions in partners, in small groups, and then also in large groups.
Yes.
A variety.
Yes.
As a way to help develop understanding and check for understanding.
Absolutely. Check for understanding,
Okay.
sharing ideas.
Good. And so those are some of the activities that you're going to use to convey the ideas. Will there be a culminating activity that you'll be asking them to do?
We have some text-dependent questions that they'll be working on, and then afterward, we have, as a grade level, came up with a document that discusses what lessons were learned through the characters, and then what important lessons can be transformed into a belief statement, which is something we've been doing for the last several weeks. So this is a familiar document. So extension would be lesson learned, themes, and then making and internalizing that to make a belief statement about something universal. Raise your hand if you do not have either a story or the graphic organizer. Daddy, do you have a pencil? Should we get a pencil? Turn to your shoulder partner to make sure you've got their value sheet, activity sheet out as well. Thumbs up if everyone has a value sheet. We have been, the last several weeks, we've been focused on short stories, picture books that share really strong messages and values around children's identity. We're going to continue that today and read a powerful short story called Everything Will Be Okay. And boys and girls, you have a copy of this at your table. And I want to point out that it's a true story. It's written by a man named James Howe. And before the internet, before MTV, before 24-hour news cable, people used to tell stories. Okay? When I am older, I will go hunting with my father the way my brothers have done. I try not to think about this. I want to go because I want my father to like me. But I don't want to kill animals. Okay, what do we know right away then about our main character? Turn and talk to your shoulder partner. What do we know right away? How do we know that? He doesn't want to kill them. Not supposed to. I want my father to like me. Pretty powerful statement for a child. Nick?
He's very caring for animals. he still wants to make his father proud, and his drive to make his father proud is more than his drive for animals.
Great. So again, we're kind of keeping track of those actions and thoughts so that we can understand this family's values. And I think as we continue to read, you're going to get a clearer view of the differences in their values. One time when my father and the 3 brothers went hunting, one of my brothers killed a deer. Most times they kill rabbits or pheasants if they get lucky, and most times they don't get lucky. But this time one of my brothers, I don't remember which one, killed a deer. The deer was hung by its feet from a tree just outside the kitchen. I could see it hanging there when I sat at my place at the table. My father urged me to eat my venison and talked about the slippers he was going to have made from the hide. Quick check, does everyone know what venison is? Venison meat? Mm-hmm. Deer meat. Okay. I couldn't eat. The thought of the venison made me want to throw up. I could see the deer's eyes, even from the kitchen table. There was life in them, still. Only the deer and I knew that there was life the bullet had missed. It was in the eyes. Yeah, so I mean, there are different degrees of loving animals, and it sounds like he has a very powerful connection with these animals. Okay, I'm going to keep reading. I could see the deer's eyes. Can you put your finger on where I'm reading, please? I could see the deer's eyes, even from the kitchen table. There was life in them still. Only the deer and I knew that there was life the bullet had missed. It was in the eyes. I pushed the venison away. My father said, "That's a waste of good meat." My brother teased me. One of them called me a sissy. My mother said, "You don't have to eat it," and took the slab of gray meat off my plate. Everyone else, what does it mean to be a man? Is there a really good way to be a man? Your dad?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And does he try to engage you into those hobbies? Okay. Johnny?
My dad grew up playing baseball a lot, and I didn't want to play it anymore. He really didn't want to play it.
And do you knew that was going to really upset him? And, yeah. Yeah, and that's tough, isn't it? I'm sorry, yeah, it's tough. But you know that he still loves you regardless, right? Absolutely. But it's tough when we feel like we're letting our parents down. Somebody else. Why don't you turn and talk to someone at your table about something that your parents maybe have expected something of you that didn't come out right. I feel alone and small and frightened. And then, all of a sudden, I don't feel any of those things. All of a sudden, it's as if Paul has already left and I'm on my own, and I know some things so clearly that I will never have to ask an older brother to help me figure them out. I will never work for Dr. Milk. I will not go hunting with my father. I will decide for myself what kind of boy I am and what kind of man I will become. But I really would like you to turn to your shoulder partner and think about some values that you came away with, and what would change in our narrator's thinking, and how that changed his self-discovery. Have a conversation.
What was the moment that throughout the lesson when you felt like you knew that the students were really, really getting it?
So the story lends itself to student engagement because it deals with an animal, it deals with pets, and so that alone got them in the beginning stages of engagement. But I think the partner talk definitely helps. But when we ask questions to relate their experiences with the character and talk about times that they maybe have felt this way, I feel like that's when the room got a little bit more serious, and students were just taking a risk and sharing their own personal connections. And that, to me, that's where the shift in the lesson was. That, yeah, we were getting it, they understood, and they could see, why this boy wanted the animal, but when he had to make the tough decision to separate his values, I could see that students could relate to that.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. There were some amazing moments when students even became emotional, and one student was moved to tears when he talked about disappointing his father.
Yes.
And that strong connection. I was amazed. I was blown away by how much they were connected to the story. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was
that's that
remarkable.
Risk-taking that we're asking students to do, and again, it's building the community and trusting one another and taking those risks.
Yeah, and the whole class responded so well to the students who were taking those risks, particularly when that boy became emotional. Also, throughout your the shoulder talk sessions, the students all of them were really engaged in discussion, and it was pretty impressive.
And I think using text-dependent questions, going from just the general understanding and going into those deeper levels of questions and stopping to check if they understand. I think that also helps. So once they get the gist, they can move to the higher level questioning stems.
I like the way that you put that you start with what happened, and then you're going deeper with your questioning to lead them there, so that you don't just start off with some abstract question, but you've used some scaffolding in your questioning.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty wonderful to watch you do that.
And I thought it was more important because it is still the beginning of the year, rather than just give them questions and answer them in writing, that we do this as a class and model the types of responses, and again, just getting our voices heard and sharing and telling stories amongst one another, rather than just doing some independent work.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really smart, and I was just reading in Doug Fisher's book that the discussion is essential, and not just short little discussions, but sustained discussions. He says that's how a deeper construct of the learning takes place, and I really saw a lot of that. What would be something that you might do differently next time? What would be some areas that you could stretch yourself in?
I think with that story, I probably could have it extend over more than one day or 2 days. I think that we could go back and discuss themes more, the author's message, and maybe construct some more responses around those higher level abstract ideas. So definitely spending more time with it.
So you think you'd want to revisit the story and ask different kinds of questions?
Right. Maybe at that third level of close reading, where they're going way outside of it and thinking about general or universal themes or author's message, so that they can get a broader understanding.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, would you be likely to do that with when you do another story, that you would do multiple reads and extend that?
Yes.
Stick with that story?
Because that was one of our first short stories, I concentrated more on the getting the gist, practicing the text-dependent questions, and then thinking about values, because that's the unit that we're in.
Right.
So now that we're moving away from that, working on the higher level, habits of mind, the questions that are a little bit more abstract, and getting them used to that, and constructing, some well-explained responses in writing.
Good, awesome. I'd like to be able to come in and see you deliver that lesson sometime as well. Okay, thanks, Wendy.
You're welcome.